Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit about a topic that I really do enjoy being a part of my ministries, and that is being active in the local schools, particularly the Catholic schools, but even the public schools, which we'll get to in a little later, but particularly the Catholic schools. For some of the churches that you are a part of, that you minister at, you might have a Catholic school right across your parking lot. That is the case for me. Others might be in your local area, might be a little drive away, a few towns away. In any event, try to get involved in the Catholic school, particularly that is close to your church in the regional area that your church serves these youth, these students that are a part of it. Because it's a great way to bridge the gap, to get to know those students and invite them into your ministries and on a greater level, but even to be a part of their life as their teacher or as their mentor, as somebody that comes in and gives talks. So a couple different ways is, first, talk to the principal of that school, let it be a grammar school or a high school, and ask them how you can be a part of the students' lives. If you feel comfortable teaching, and especially if you have maybe a background in that or a background in theology, teach a lesson weekly, monthly, however often you can get into the school to be able to share that lesson. It doesn't necessarily have to be something totally planned out, a whole lesson plan with worksheets and all. It can be simply going in and giving a talk on maybe a topic of morality, maybe on a particular saint or blessed. It's always great to talk about the young saints to the youth, saints like Saint Therese, Saint Kateri, or even more recently made a Blessed Carlo Acutis, sharing about his love of the Eucharist. What a great lesson to share with these young people on their level. You don't even have to come up with all the content. Maybe you can find a great YouTube video to share about that saint's lives and then talk about it, foster a discussion about it afterwards. These are great ways to get into the schools and give lessons on faith, also to get to know the students. Another great way I love to get to know the students is by fostering programs that are either before or after school that you can share your ministry and invite these students to. So one of my favorite was our Mass and Breakfast program. And it started so simply. I was teaching a lesson to our 8th grade students in our local Catholic school right here again across my parking lot on the importance of the Eucharist and receiving the Lord, especially at Mass on Sundays, but even going to daily Mass. And I challenged our students the next day to show up to the 6:45 a.m. Mass. And I said, I'll buy you a couple donuts. I'll bring them with me from Dunkin' Donuts. I'll serve them after Mass, and then I'll walk you over to the school. And so I got parents' permission and all, took care of it. It actually wasn't the next day. I ended up doing it the next week. But needless to say, 6 kids showed up. We went to Mass, came over, had Dunkin' Donuts at my youth office, which is right next door to the church, had the donuts, and then afterwards walked over again right next door to the school. Of course, my parish is set up that way. It's kind of nice. Maybe your parish is as well, to be able to open up that opportunity. Well, what happened next just made it so awesome. One of the youth said, "This was fun. Can we do it next week?" And I was like, oh my gosh, 6:45 a.m. Mass, that's tough, but I'll do it because you're asking for it. And that's what we did. It became a weekly thing. It's called Mass and Breakfast. That was over 10 years ago now. And here we are having every Wednesday Mass and Breakfast every year with the 8th graders. It's something they look forward to. It's something they know that classes before them did, and when they get to 8th grade, they can do too. It's fostered so many different relationships with those 8th graders that have come through our school. And I'll run into kids later on in life, years later, and they'll say, oh my gosh, I always remember getting up early on Wednesdays to go to Mass and Breakfast. These memories will stay with the kids. Most importantly, you're bringing them to church, nourishing them, getting them to hear the scripture, and of course, receive the Lord in the morning on a Wednesday morning when they normally wouldn't be. And so having that program as a part of our ministry, but reaching out to the school, has been such a blessing in our ministries. And then it bridges that gap to invite them, say, hey, there's youth group tomorrow night, or there's youth group this Sunday. Don't forget to come. And many do carry over to the ministry. Some don't. But you know what? Those kids that still come are still a part of your ministry because that is part of your program. So having these little programs, that's just one example, that are before or after school that you can invite the students to is a great way to bridge that gap again. Lastly, going into the school on a need-to basis, right? Maybe this class is struggling with something, or maybe there's like kids that aren't getting along and you can talk to them and kind of bring the faith into that. Having little one-on-one or two-on-one sessions, with the youth that are maybe going through different struggles, being a resource for them is always another great opportunity to get into your local Catholic schools. And then lastly, as I talked about public schools too, I had an episode probably back in like season 2. I know you could go back and check the playlist, and I'll put it in the show notes on The Rock. The Rock is a Catholic club at a local public high school. And if you can get into your local public school and be able to share the faith in an after-school club, again, check the show notes because in that episode, I share all about how to get that started. But it's just a great way to reach out to the public schools. And then lastly, if all else fails, at least the youth that are coming to your church, coming to your programs, ask them, what are you involved in? If they're involved in sports, or if they're involved in theater, if they're involved in a particular group that does things outside of the school that you can attend, support them in that. And you being a presence at those games, at that show, at that whatever the event is for your youth, other parents are going to see you, other students are going to see you, and they're going to see you supporting these youth. And that's going to also foster more youth to come to your program. So that's important too, to remember to be with them and support them in what they do, what they love. And in turn, you're being a witness, a face of the church right there. All these things are going to help you touch the hearts and the souls of the youth that are in school and in your local areas. So be involved, be active, be open to new ideas. See how you can fit into the schools that are in your area, particularly the Catholic and even the public schools. And God's going to use you as a great tool in their school years to be a part of their lives and to help them grow in their faith where they're at, meeting them where they're at. God bless.